Imagine this. You're stuck in a midnight airport. The flight map above you glows with thousands of blinking lines, routes crisscrossing the globe, every city connected, every ocean bridgeable. It feels like modern magic, but 300,000 years ago, your ancestors had no roads, no wheels, no maps. They had only two bare feet, a body built to never stop moving, and a terrifying truth. Staying still meant dying. Your forebears walked 15,000 miles across continents they couldn't name, toward places they'd never seen, carrying everything they owned on their backs. They crossed deserts, ice sheets, and even open sea, using strategies we rarely imagine. Most people think ancient migration was slow, accidental drift, a single walk out of Africa, and then random wandering. But that story is wrong. The real story is faster, smarter, and far more dangerous. They didn't just wander, they planned, navigated, and explored. And one tiny piece of shell on a cliff edge completely rewrote what we thought possible. But where it was found, that's the part most people never hear. In school, we often see migration as a single line: Africa to Middle East, to Europe, to Asia, to Australia. A neat, straight arrow. But the data tells a much more complex, clever story. There weren't just one or two migrations, there were pulses, waves of people moving in and out of Africa, hopping islands, following coasts, timing green corridors in the Sahara, and crossing open water long before we thought possible. Some groups went north into Europe, some hugged the southern coast of Asia, some plunged deep into Siberia, and some, shockingly, ended up in Australia 65,000 years ago, requiring boats to cross stretches of open ocean. So what exactly did people actually do, and how can we prove it? At Pinnacle Point in South Africa, archaeologist Dr. Curtis Marian and his team found something unexpected: ancient shell middens, layers of eaten shellfish stacked near hearths and ochre. These weren't just random meals, they were coastal camps, showing that early humans were deliberately exploiting marine resources and moving along the shore. This wasn't drift. This was a follow-the-shore strategy, using the coast as a highway with predictable food, navigable landmarks, and safer travel. In Southeast Asia and Wallacea, researchers found stone tools made from rock that didn't come from nearby. Lithic provenance studies show volcanic glass and obsidian transported hundreds of kilometers. That means people were not just moving locally, they were carrying materials across long distances, maybe through networks of exchange, maybe through planned journeys. In 2023, a study in Nature Communications reported modern human bones found in Tam Pa Ling cave dated between 68,000 and 86,000 years ago. That's tens of thousands of years before the main migration wave many textbooks describe. These precocious migrants likely didn't leave much DNA in modern populations, but they blazed a trail into Southeast Asia that later groups followed. Similarly, at Madjedbebe in northern Australia, archaeologists have dated human occupation to around 65,000 years ago. But Australia was never connected to the mainland. To get there, people had to cross multiple stretches of open water, even at lower sea levels. This means they had watercraft, simple rafts or canoes, and the skill to use them. Sea level reconstructions and climate models show that coastlines shifted dramatically. Some routes were open, others blocked. Green Sahara pulses created temporary corridors through what is now desert. Glacial land bridges like the one between Siberia and Alaska opened and closed with the ice. Human travelers didn't just face a static world, they exploited windows, timing their moves with climate shifts, using predictable resources, and adapting to new landscapes. Researchers have built and tested simple rafts and canoes, paddling them across realistic distances to see what's possible. Combined with ethnographic analogies from later island societies, these experiments show that even very basic watercraft could cross tens of kilometers of open sea. Put all these clues together: shell middens, distant stones, ancient bones, DNA, sea level maps, experimental boats, and tooth isotopes. The picture is clear. Ancient humans didn't just wander. They planned, coordinated, and used technology. But how did they actually cross open water without modern ships? Ancient travel wasn't one thing. It was many tricks layered together. Coasts are natural highways. You can see where you're going. You can find food, shellfish, fish, seabirds. You can rest on beaches, and you can navigate by landmarks, headlands, rivers, islands. Dr. Curtis Marian's work at Pinnacle Point shows that early humans were already using this strategy. They didn't just stumble along the coast. They exploited it deliberately, moving in step with seasons and resources. Think of it like a modern backpacker using a trail network. Stay near water, follow visible features, and keep moving toward the next camp. To reach Australia, people had to cross the Sahul Gap, multiple islands and stretches of open water. At Madjedbebe and other sites, the evidence is clear. Occupation happened far too early for this to be accidental. They built rafts or canoes from wood, bark, and fiber. They paddled by day, maybe slept on islands at night. They used birds, currents, and stars as guides. Experimental seafaring studies show that even very basic craft could cross 30 to 50 kilometers of open water in a few days. That's not a miracle. It's a skill. Not all travel was by sea. Some groups moved through the Levant. Sites like Skul and Kafzej show early modern humans outside Africa. Jebel Faya in the UAE hints at repeated movements through the Arabian Peninsula. During Green Sahara pulses, desert regions turned into grasslands with lakes and rivers. People could cross what is now impossible terrain, following water and grazing animals. When the climate shifted again, some groups stayed, others retreated, and some moved further. Shells, fish, and sea mammals provided reliable calories. Coastal camps could support longer journeys because food was predictable. Think of it like a supply chain. Instead of carrying everything, you travel along a route where you can refuel. This is why coastal routes were so powerful. They reduced the risk of starvation and made long-distance travel safer. People didn't travel alone. They moved in groups, sometimes as part of larger networks, marriage alliances, trade exchanges, or shared rituals. Stone tools from distant regions show that materials, and probably people, moved across wide areas. Imagine a network of villages connected by regular visits, exchanging goods, knowledge, and genes. That's not random drift. That's a system. Navigation by stars, birds, and currents. Portable technologies, knives, cords, containers, knowledge passed down through stories, songs, and teaching. These weren't just survival trips, they were explorations. Some journeys may have been about curiosity, trade, or even ritual. Were these journeys just survival, or were they curiosity, trade, or exploration? The answer is probably both, and that ambiguity is what makes the story so human. So what does this all mean? Human travel was never just about escaping. It was inventive, social, and adaptive. It was a mix of planning, technology, and cooperation. Your nightmarish airport map and those blinking flight lines are not a break from the past. They're a continuation of the same impulse, the urge to move, to connect, to solve impossible problems. The night, the sea, the desert, these weren't just obstacles. They were labs where humans tested innovations, learned new skills, and pushed the boundaries of what was possible. But we still don't know everything. One of the biggest puzzles, the precise routes into Sahul, the exact islands crossed, the exact technologies used, and the missing seafaring record that time has swallowed. Imagine being one of those first travelers. You stand at the edge of the water, looking out at a horizon you can't name. You know the next island is there, but you can't see it. You step onto your raft, pick up your paddle, and go. What route would you have chosen? The long coastal road or the risky open sea gamble? Tell us in the comments.